Man, this is Diane Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on owlscoop.com. You already know.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of owlscoop.com, the authority on Temple Athletics. I'm your host, John DiCarlo, owlscoop's editor. We've got another full house again. Assistant editor Kyle Gauss, Colin Schofield, and Ryan Mack. I called everybody handsome last week. Kyle, you missed that.
Yeah.
Call you guys handsome again.
Was I included in the initial handsome? I wasn't on yet.
Yeah, you guys can verify that, right?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
You were.
It's a good looking crew here. Do say so myself. So, how's everybody doing?
Doing good, John. How you doing?
Doing great. Not doing as well as Kyle's soccer team.
Yeah. Team Haiti. If it wasn't for Team Haiti, Philadelphia would have had a terrible 5-day stretch. Thankfully, my boys rose to the occasion. We're on a 3-game win streak. Like Temple, we are 3-3 now.
How much did it? Well, you know what? It doesn't really apply to you. Like, you're an Eagles fan, but the Phillies don't affect you because you're a Braves fan.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
We can't be fans of Temple football. We have to be fair. We have to be measured.
Correct.
As goofy as last Saturday's game was, and all of you know by now, if you're a Temple fan, a gut punch 32-31 loss for Temple to Navy. Maybe that makes Colin Schofield happy, but doesn't make Temple fans happy. Now, in all seriousness,
makes me happy over here, Don.
I know. Got to meet Mr. Schofield in the press box. Awesome. Got to meet Colin's brother on Friday, who's strongly considering Temple University.
Might have gotten him to commit here, John. Our efforts might have just worked.
Is he a silent commit right now?
I think he might be a silent commit
Wow.
per a source back in Annapolis, Maryland.
Wow.
For a source familiar with his recruitment.
Per a source very familiar with his recruitment.
So your mother?
It may or may not be my mother.
Well, it was a fun weekend. I got to meet a lot of the important people in the Schofield family. So you guys as Temple fans, you know the details by now, but we'll go back and re-examine some of the key moments from that game and assess this team after 6 games. You'll hear some audio from Casey Keeler. We got Tyler Walker, Temple's offensive coordinator, and Brian L. Smith, Temple's defense coordinator, for Monday's media availability. We'll talk to you about why Saturday is an obvious get-right game for Temple down at Charlotte. They're 1-5. And we'll talk about some expectations for Diane Richardson's women's basketball team and Adam Fisher's men's team. They're less than a month out from their respective seasons, and we'll get to all of your mailbag questions as well. We appreciate those. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. We will continue to remind you that now is the perfect time to join OwlScoop and get access to everything that we offer you: recruiting information, football coverage, basketball coverage. As we've been saying for the last several weeks, it's that time of the year where all of it is starting to intersect. So if you join OwlScoop now, you'll get it for $1 for your first week, and then enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. Again, I'm going to repeat that. Join OwlScoop now for $1 for your first week and enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. It's a heck of a deal. You should take advantage of it. A lot of stuff going on in the upcoming weeks. All right, guys. Navy 32, Temple 31, complete with a 51-yard Blake Horvath touchdown run on 4th and 1 where he goes untouched, complete with a highly scrutinized decision to give the ball to Jay Ducker right away, score a touchdown, complete with an obvious missed call, false start call right before Navy successfully convinced Casey Keeler to use a timeout, and complete with a readjustment on Navy's part after they were trailing 17-7 and really kind of playing a game that Temple wanted them to play. Not to deny Temple any credit for what their defense did in the first half. But I think one of the key things there was Navy kind of just got back to what they do well. They were keeping themselves out of these second and longs every year, year after year. When you cover Navy, it's like, okay, fullback dive or a positive play on first down. And they're constantly living in this world of 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3. And that's how they get you. That wasn't really their identity in the first half. But let's get into this again. By now, you guys know the deal, but a couple days later, digesting this. Kyle, I'll start with you because we were kind of texting about this after the game. And I think I asked you, what, in terms of this for Temple fans, in terms of that gut punch loss, what does it make you think of? You'd said maybe UConn last year, but this is a team with expectations. I know they're not going to compete for a college football playoff berth, but last year I think we kind of knew this isn't working. Although if they win that UConn game, they still hang in there for bowl eligibility. But in the history of Temple losses, how gutting was this one?
Yeah, I think once you put it in the context of, last year's team wasn't going anywhere. Like that was just kind of a weird loss to UConn just because of the way it happened. Like you go from potentially, QB sneaking in to win the game to all of a sudden there's a 99-yard touchdown return and the score looks more lopsided. I think for some reason I keep going back to that 2013 UCF game.
Yeah.
Where it's a last second Hail Mary to JJ
Roten, right? Or
does that sound right? Roten?
hold on, I'll look.
Let's look it up. So 2013, the issue, like one of the things that when you look back on that is that was against a UCF team that went 12-1 that year. Like Temple should have beat if they hadn't gone. It was JJ Wharton with a minute and 6 seconds left, catches a diving 30-yard touchdown pass to tie the game. Then they kick a field goal right after that with as time expires to win 39-36. Temple would have beat that team. Even though Temple only won 2 games that year, that really did just feel like that was during the stretch where Gary Nova throws a touchdown pass to them at Rutgers. Like they just kept finding ways to lose one possession games. Like Rule's first year, they should have gone 4-8 or 5-7. Instead, they go 2-10 because they just kept finding ways. As far as like significance, I also go back to, this is a great segment, just pouring salt in wounds of Temple fans. I also go back to the 2008 Navy game where was it Keeler Griffin or Lamar McPherson fumbled?
It was the late Keeler Griffin fumble.
Yeah. So they were just trying to drain the clock out and get the ball back to Navy. Navy was a super option team that year of just like they only ran the ball. So if you got the ball back to them, the odds of them going down the field in like a minute and a half left was unlikely. Instead, they go to overtime and Ricky Dobbs just beats them. That was the difference between Temple being bowl eligible that year. That would have been the first bowl in 29 years. Instead, they had to wait one more year until the Eagle Bank Bowl in 09. So I kind of go, there's been a lot of Temple bad losses. You keep saying gut punch. I would say kick in the dick. It just really feels like it was just like are they going to find a way for this to happen? And then when it did happen, even with the 2-point conversion, I thought they defended it well. Like they get him outside the pocket. I'm like, okay, so they're going to have a chance here. And then to his credit, Horvath makes a good throw, buys some time with his athleticism, rolling to the right. So it just felt like everything that kind of did get sucked out of the building because that would have been a win that you look back at the end of the year and you're like, okay, they beat like a 9-10 win Navy team in Casey Keeler's first year. I don't think it's the difference between them going to the conference championship or anything. I don't think if we were sitting here at 4-2, you're like, they're going to go 10-2 and they're hosting the conference championship, but definitely demoralizing.
Ironic that Tyler Douglas actually comes in and gets called in to convert.
Yeah.
A key 4th down, right? It was 4th and 1, 4th
and 1, yeah.
And not Giovanni McCoy.
To pat myself on the back, I've been saying that all year. When people have asked, like, is there a package for Giovanni McCoy? I said, you're more likely to see a Tyler Douglas package than Giovanni McCoy, just because it's easier to put a package in for a 3rd-string quarterback, especially when they're like a super athlete.
Yeah.
So, kudos, Kyle. It's our new segment. Kudos, Kyle.
You went PG-13 on the kick in the. I went PG with gut punch, but
you can say the F-bomb like 3 times and still be PG-13.
Really?
Yeah, you're allowed to say the F-bomb.
I didn't know that. I was not familiar with those guidelines. But you talked about a game of moments. Like even after you could say what you want, even if you can agree that they should have taken a knee. They should have taken more time off the clock, and they didn't. Ty Davis very nearly brings down Blake Horvath. Ben Osweke was almost in the way of that 2-point conversion pass to Alex Texa. Avery Powell, we'll get into this on Blake Horvath's 51-yard run. Brian L. Smith was, I asked him yesterday what went wrong. I get it. As a coach, you don't want to hang one of your players out to dry. I'm sure he knows quite well who was where they were supposed to be and who was not where they were supposed to be. It looked like, he said, and we'll play this audio in a second, that we played too wide. It looked like Avery Powell was not where he was supposed to be. Lou Fry and Javier Morton, Casey Keeler told us last week, hey, expect him to play. We get up into the press box, we look through our binoculars, and hey, they're dressed, they're warming up. Kyle is doing the binocular bird eyes on video here. And
mine's a what you call it, monocular, monocle. What am I looking for?
Monocular?
Like a telescopic, like old, like Christopher Columbus one,
or a monocle.
Monocle.
Yeah. Oh, I see. There's someone out there. But does Javier Morton line up the right way there? Does Lou Fry line up the right way there? If Sekou Kroma didn't play, Sultan Badmus, Brian Smith said he only played a few snaps in the game, nothing injury related. He said it was just more matchup related, but so many woulda, coulda, shoulda moments in that game. They were driving down near the end of the first quarter. The quarter turns and it seemed like they lost a little momentum. They kick a field goal. Carl Harden's field goal, which I understand. I still haven't looked at it yet. I understand that on the broadcast, it looked like it was going down the middle and then it veered off. Mm-hmm. And so on one hand, I can understand why Evan Simon says, boy, this is really disappointing, but I'm really also encouraged because Temple should have won this game, but they did not get overwhelmed. Ironically enough, Evan Simon plays. You can point to the 6-touchdown game that he had earlier this season. I think this was the best game of his career. There was that broken play where he's about to hand it to Jay Ducker. Navy blows it up. He keeps it and gets 21 yards there. So really good game from Evan Simon's perspective. Colin, Ryan, I think we know what we know by now, but again, a couple days later, what are your impressions? What are you left with after looking at this game a couple days later?
No conflict of interest bowl for me here, as you like to point out to me, John. But it's so tough to watch, especially after that first half, where it felt like Temple was really, in the driver's seat, and it was due in part to it felt like Navy was playing into what Temple wanted them to do. Like, John, I think you turned to me at some point in the first half when Navy was on like a 2nd and 15 after a false start, and you said, I don't think I've ever seen Navy in a 2nd and 15 against Temple. And like that's kind of like encapsulate how they were like on 2nd and longs or 3rd and longs.
Kyle can probably.
I'm wondering. My brain and my like snarkyism just goes like, I have to be able to find.
I can see the wheels turning. Go ahead, Colin. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I could just see Kyle's face turning there. So
it was just like it felt like Temple was in the driver's seat on really both sides of the ball, and then Navy just got back to running the ball over and over with Horvath. I think he had like 154 of his 155 rushing yards in the second half, including that 51-yard run. And Temple's offense kept up. They felt like they were going score for score. They didn't punt until the end of the third quarter for the first time. So it was like they were keeping up on offense. It was just a tough loss. If it was my decision, I probably would have kneeled it instead of scoring it with Jay Ducker at the end of the game there. But that's kind of like a dealer's choice on what happens, I guess. There's no reason not walk away encouraged. I think like this is a team last year that lost to Navy 38-11, and now you're losing at the last second to them, a team that's very similar in the Navy team. So an encouraging loss for me, but certainly it's a different word than gut punch or Kyle's kicking the crotch.
Say the words.
I'll agree with Kyle. It was certainly a kick. So
Ryan had the Saturday off, so he was watching from the seats. He had his day off from the Inquirer and Al Scoop. For any of you guys, because it took me a few minutes to digest it as I'm sitting there covering the game. He throws the 22-yard pass to Kajaya Holloway, and Kajaya Holloway almost scores right then and there.
Right.
Like it was, again, a game of moments. So we might not have even been talking about this decision, whether you go for, unless, if Kajaya scores there, then somebody says, why are you attempting that long of a pass? I don't know if it gets scrutinized that much, but when they go in and score and they punch it in with Jay, it was almost kind of a delay for me. I didn't think about it right away. I didn't think right away, like, what are they doing? They should kneel here, because it was like, wow, they systematically went down there. They are now up a touchdown. And initially I can see the logic. It's like, now you got to make Navy drive 3/4 of the field here. I eventually started thinking, they could have taken some time off the clock. You remind yourself the time, the time situation, distance, timeouts, all that stuff. When did it start occurring to you guys, like, maybe they should have taken some more time off the clock? Where did you think
Before
about
they
that
did
right
it.
away? Yeah, even before
Yeah,
they
before they even did it. If I recall correctly, I think there was an injury stoppage.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't instant. Yeah, so like there was like a minute or two in between the Kajaya Halloween catch and the decision to do it.
Mhm.
And I'm texting people, being like, "What do you do here?" The immediate response I get back from people texting are, "You kick, like you kneel and kick the field goal." Like once they decided to do it, it was like I thought to myself, like, okay, like I know why they think that. They think like, okay, go up 7. Carl Harden was questionable, with a stiff neck. Too many things can go wrong. Like I understand maybe why they thought that. I'm positive I would have done like a hybrid of the two. At the very least, if you're like, hey, we're gonna score a touchdown, I don't buy the, well, our quarterback's not used to kneeling and not losing a yard. Like stuff like that just seems
Yeah.
a little bit revisionist history to me. Like he's a quarterback, he can kneel even if he loses a yard and you shave another minute off the clock or get him down to no timeouts. That's a huge difference to me. I feel like you could have handled that a lot better. Because I mean, even like, yes, the logic was correct. The Navy was going to get the ball back with like 30 seconds left. The difference is you could have gotten them there with no timeouts.
Mhm.
Instead, they had that timeout right before the 51-yard touchdown by Blake Horvath. Like they could have made this a lot harder on Navy. Could Navy have still gone down, scored a touchdown, and then great, like this was all for naught? Sure, but most likely they would have been playing for a field goal there
Mhm.
in a situation where, per Casey Keeler, it was a really weird kicking day. Like Carl Harden's gets that gust that all of a sudden gets it. Their kicker, it looked like his 48-yarder was gonna go far right, and instead it kind of sneaks back in. Like the wind was doing weird things down there. A nor'easter was looming. You could have made it pretty hard on Navy. But instead, here it is. I'll also say, like, and you touched on this, it shouldn't have come down to this. They should have been up 20 at halftime.
Yeah.
They were
You tweeted about that. Yeah.
they were a substantially better team than Navy. Like, period. Like they did whatever they wanted to do on offense. They had they had the weird field goal that missed. They had, for the first time in a while, Evan Simon just like loses control of the ball when he gets absolutely drilled on a sack. But like other than that, they put up 500 some yards of offense despite being kind of conservative at times. Like I think that they were just so athletically superior to Navy, and instead they lose by 1 point because just they so many missed opportunities.
Ryan, what would you have done there?
Honestly, I would have done what like Kyle was talking about first, and Casey Keeler kind of talked about it in the press conference yesterday, where he talked about like they had like two options and like that mystery third option, where it's like either score a touchdown right away or you just drain the clock down, kick the field goal. But honestly, you probably should have just done this, like he said, Casey talked about yesterday, was just like probably try to do like a quarterback sneak where you don't try to get it in, but just trying to drain the clock down, force a timeout, then do it again, and then on that
Try
third
for
down,
the touchdown.
you already drained them down to two timeouts. You can either go for a touchdown, but then by the time you give it back, you either score a touchdown, you need to drive down the field with one timeout, or you kick a field goal, then you do the same thing with one timeout. Going for that score right away, I can kind of see the logic, but I would have tried to drain the clock down a little bit further.
What do
Like
you think that mystery third option was?
it was legitimately like try to sneak it, don't get it in, try to sneak it, don't get it in, drain those timeouts, and then go for that touchdown on
My
third.
mystery third option, you put JoJo Bermudez in at quarterback. You have him run around for 40 seconds, and then he chucks it out of bounds. Even if you get the intentional grounding, okay, you're still in field goal range. I just drained 40 seconds off this minute clock. Just saying. Hire me.
After he got cracked on the sideline earlier in the game. I'm sure this is not going to make Temple fans feel better if you go back and if you read our story from yesterday. Ryan alluded to, the weekly Monday press conference. Casey did come in. It was kind of still clinging to his logic a little bit, but he did say, would I have done it differently? Yeah, it didn't work out. And then he, as Ryan and Kyle have said, went through those three options. And the third one that Ryan was just talking about, he said he considered that kind of like the NFL model, that hybrid. Maybe you take a knee or an intentional short run on first down, second down. And he said, make him bang a couple timeouts on third down. Then you maybe try and catch him off guard, go for the touchdown. If you don't get that, you kick the field goal. Best case scenario, you get the touchdown. Now you're up 7. They have no timeouts left. But he said, yeah, sure. Would I have done it differently? Yeah, because it didn't work. So I don't think he was nearly as stubborn as he could have been. After the game, I thought his logic was a little flawed. He had talked about, you're talking about a team that he wasn't afraid to say they have a little bit more of an elementary passing game. That's all the more reason to leave him without a couple of timeouts.
I'm by no means am I trying to suggest like I no longer have faith in Casey Keeler as a
Oh,
coach for
no.
this one decision.
No.
Like it was a decision. You made the one, it didn't work out. It's the same as hindsight is 2020. For all we know, if they had just scored a touchdown there and then Navy's unable to bust that 51-yard run and they're in field goal range and you're like, oh, thank God they're up 7 here, then everyone's praising Casey Keeler, but it is what it is.
Again, you can definitely throw this into the category of it shouldn't have come down to this, but the officials clearly missed a false start on Navy right tackle Jalen Acevedo. Another weird moment in the game where Navy comes out, they do that weird shift. He false starts, the rest of the line shifts. They don't pick up on that. Temple's defensive line is pointing like, hey, they missed the call. That forces Casey Keeler to call that third and final timeout. Just another bad mix there of an unfortunate missed call. But the only thing that remains is they used their last timeout. Are we at all guaranteeing that Temple would have been able to get in field goal range? No. They still would have been up against it, but with a timeout to use, I think your strategy shifts a little bit. And if you can throw a couple longer passes, maybe you get down there and you see what you have with Carl Harden, a guy that missed just short 61 yards down at Georgia Tech. But as Kyle said, it was a weird kicking night. So a lot of weird moments in this game. We'll get to Charlotte in a second, but another guy that stands out, and I think Kyle, didn't you talk about Kajai Halloween on last week's podcast? I feel like
another kudos, Kyle.
Yes. Just everything keeps coming up, Kyle.
Also, Navy we had a 2nd and 16 against Temple last year, so
Kyle's he's just on one right now. He's proving me wrong, proving everybody wrong.
That came after a sack, like we're about to get sacked on first down, but still, like 2nd and 16.
Yeah,
it's worse than 2nd and 15.
Well, Kajai Halloween in this game, I mean, like, he had his career highs already in the first half, ends up with 9 catches, 146 yards. You throw his development in with what you get from JoJo Bermudez, 5 catches, 74 yards. Colin Chase, we are way off whatever my prediction was for him, which was, I think, like 60 receptions. I was out of my mind on that. But I think you can still see like how he's used on jet sweeps and stuff like that. But you look down the stat sheet here. Kajaya Halloween, legitimate weapon for them now. JoJo Bermudez, legitimate weapon. Colin Chase, Peter Clark, 5 catches, 47 yards. We were talking about Ryder Cush being the tight end that was going to be putting up the bigger numbers. And it's not to say that he couldn't break out in the second half of the year, but one of the stories that's maybe not going to necessarily get forgotten, but Evan Simon, 25 of 36, 345 yards, played one of the best games of his career. We'll play some audio a little bit later or a few minutes later here when Casey Keeler talked about him. But going back, I didn't want to forget about this clip. Going back to Blake Horvath's 51-yard run, it's one of those plays you're watching from the press box or from home and thinking like, how the hell did that happen? Asked Brian Smith how that happened, and this was his response. And I followed up to say, was there a specific player? How did it happen? Just said they were too wide, but this was Brian Smith's response to what happened on that play.
Brian, when you look at the film, what went wrong on the 51-yard run by Horvath, who was supposed to fill there?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of little plays that we had that we just didn't get it done. One thing or another. That offense, got to give them credit. They didn't do a lot of different things. They mix it up. Different formations, disguise and mask different plays to get to certain formations. So they present a bunch of different challenges, and it was a play that we've seen before, but we just didn't adjust and fit it up right. Quarterback run game play we had, just didn't fit it up right and execute. But again, give them credit. There were a lot of plays that wasn't just that play. That it came down to it. A lot of plays that we could have made, during the course of the game, and we didn't. And, we weren't able to get it done.
Was it supposed to be like a safety there? Like if you had to like explain like that very play, I mean, I know that like their left guard did a good job pulling, but like was there supposed to be someone up top? Like what broke down there? Is this like...
Yeah, just alignments. We weren't lined up, tight enough. Just had a little bit too much width. If we line up tighter, closer to the line, that situation, 4th down and 1, you got to be ready to stop the run. So just lined up too wide and weren't in position to make the play.
Going back to Evan Simon, as I was saying just before, another question I asked Casey yesterday, some of the line of questioning for all three of these guys, for Casey Keeler, Tyler Walker, Brian Smith, 6 games in, how you looking, how you feeling? And I asked Casey about a player who he thinks has exceeded expectations. He said, you have to start with Evan Simon. One of the things I like about Casey, I think a lot of people do, is like he's pretty honest. He can afford to be pretty honest. And he has this quote here where he says, winning's my best friend. I will be loyal to your son when it comes to like helping him, get his resume, get an internship, but I'm not going to promise anybody playing time. And you'll hear me here. I asked him about the players exceeded his expectations. And I followed up and said, is this about everything you could have hoped for? Because they brought in Giovanni McCoy, who at one point was one of the best FCS quarterbacks in the country, was off to a good start at Oregon State, as we know last year, went to Texas State, and Evan is clearly the best quarterback in the program. And then recently, it was whatever it was, like a few weeks ago, CBS put out that story about Trinidad Chambliss. We've talked about him on the podcast. Had Trinidad Chambliss somehow gotten out of Oxford, Mississippi, Temple was going to do everything they could the next day to make sure they got him. And, there are Temple sources, unnamed sources in this story, but it's out there. It's out there. And Evan Simon, I think I don't know if we talked about it in the pod or just, in our chat. What's Evan Simon thinking when you see that and say, wow, they were going to try to offer him this much money and bring him in, and instead he ends up at Ole Miss, and now he's maybe a long shot to win the Heisman. Doesn't seem to have phased Evan Simon. And Casey Keeler just talked about the competition of it all. And here's what he had to say about Evan and just how he's responded through the first 6 games.
Are there guys on any side of the ball that are kind of exceeding your expectations so far?
Oh, there's so many guys that are exceeding my expectations. I mean, Evan has to be, top of the list. When the NFL scouts come in, I'd say reminds me of Pat Devlin. Pat Devlin, pretty good football player. Pat Devlin spent like 7 or 8 years with the Dolphins. He was a Penn State transfer, played for me at Delaware. And, same sort of mental acuity, same sort of just, demeanor where if someone needs to talk, he'll talk. But he's not going to put himself out there all the time. And, the way Pat was as accurate a passer I've ever been around. Evan, obviously, is a tremendously accurate passer. So, yeah, I think he's exceeded everyone's expectations. You knew you got this great human being. You're just not sure if he was going to rise up to the level that you say you could win games in this conference. And I'm just being honest. And he has, And that's such a great testament to him, because instead of worrying about if we're going to bring somebody in to compete, he's worried about competing. He's just worried about, him getting better. So he's a guy that this whole building has just such respect for. He could walk into a defensive meeting and say, I need to talk to the defense. They would all sit there and listen to him, because that's the street cred that he has with everybody in this building, from our trainers to our strength coaches to the players. Yeah, even when the single digits say, hey, can Evan talk to the guys? It tells you a little something.
Was that best case scenario for you? Because sometimes when guys have competition brought in, they go the other way.
Absolutely.
They zig, we won the zag. You brought in Giovanni. It's out there now. CBS did a story about how hard you guys went after Trinidad Chambliss.
Yep.
And now he's a Heisman candidate. None of that seems to have rattled Evan. Instead, it seems to have elevated him.
No.
Is that exactly what you're hoping for?
Yeah. Yeah, and my whole thing is this, is I have no loyalty when it comes to playing time. Now, help you get your degree, help you get an internship, help you get your resume together, anything going on in your life, absolute loyalty. Playing time, you earn it. My best friend is winning. I know that. I love winning. and I'm going to play my favorite player. And that my favorite player is the guy who's going to help me win. So I'm very direct with that. It's like, there's loyalty, but playing time is not loyalty. Because I get that question from parents a lot, when I talk to parents. I'm like, listen, loyalty to us is making sure your son gets a degree. Loyalty to us is make sure that if he wants an internship, he gets an internship. Loyalty to us is like, if there's a job out there that he wants and we can help him, we're going to help him. That's loyalty. Playing time is something you earn every day. That's just something you earn. And so even when we bring like a guy like Giovanni in, he knew we were bringing him in to compete with Evan. And it was really up front, like, yeah, I mean, you're going to compete though. I really think you put yourself in harm's way when you guarantee people stuff. I just that's not my style. I can't do that. So the guarantee is we're going to let you compete. And it's so rewarding when you see someone like Evan just shrug it off and just go, yeah, it's competition. I mean, mom and dad did a good job. He must have had some really good teachers and mentors also, because here's a guy who just simply was like, yeah, let's go, bring it on. And he had all the confidence in the world. And he's gotten better. From where we got him to where he's right now, he's definitely put himself in a position to, be a starter in this league.
If Temple somehow, there's that old cliche, you can't let one team beat you twice. So this is the epitome of a get-right game. Charlotte, obviously, they've had some injuries. Their starting quarterback is out. They're not a good football team. They're 1-5. Kickoff Saturdays at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Yeah, they're 1-5. They've lost their last 3. Their only win is over Monmouth. A good, I think, like 5-1 FCS Monmouth team, but an FCS opponent nonetheless. They lost their starting quarterback, Connor Harrell, to an ACL injury back on September 18th against Rice. Since then, you got Grayson Loftus, redshirt sophomore. You relieved him during that game. And then Zach Wilkie has come in to split time with them. They both completed 8 passes at Army last Saturday, but their only touchdown came with 8 seconds left. That game is well over. They were losing 24-0 at that point. Defensively, they are one of the worst teams in the country, 122nd in the FBS in scoring defense. They're giving up an average of 32.5 points per game. So again, I think the only question I think we're looking at here, as I said earlier, does Temple allow Navy to beat them twice? Evan Simons showed some humanity. He's like, we have that 24-hour rule, but this one might take 48 hours. Do we think that this team is veteran-led enough, hardened enough, smart enough to say, Saturday sucked, should have won that game, but we cannot let a 1-5 team beat us? Are there any concerns there? I think Kyle has pointed out that if this line holds, what was it? The last time Temple was a double-digit favorite, and I now
on the road against a conference team. It's been like 6 years.
Yeah.
ECU game in 2019.
So I think I know where we're all going to lie on predictions, but is that a danger, or is this team capable of flushing what happened this weekend?
Of course, there's always going to be a danger, especially coming off of a loss as not as bad as it, but as demoralizing as the loss against Navy was. But I do think this team is capable of flushing it. They kept one of the best teams in the American Conference this year and last year, 2 within 1 point, and they were beating them by 10. And then they're blowing that lead again. They kept them within distance the entire game. They played Georgia Tech pretty close to a couple weeks before that, even though we know how the final score of that game ended up going. But they've shown that they can be competitive. Yes, that game sucked, but I do think they are going to be able to flush it. They've shown that they can be not saying one of the best teams in the conference, but at least right in the middle right now on year one, and showed strides of being so much than they were last year. Something that Casey Keeler talked about, even though he also said he wishes that they were 4-2. So I am confident in this team being able to just kind of flush it and pick up a win. And I do think this is a game against a team that is the perfect opponent to get over that loss.
I think Ryan hit it on the head. There's certainly a danger of coming out slow and not being able to flush that Navy loss, but I think this team's veteran-led enough where I think they're going to be able to flush it and, really kind of handle their business against Charlotte, again, a team that they really should be able to handle pretty easily. I don't see why Temple can't win and win comfortably, and again, have a perfect bounce back game. So I think Temple can have a comfortable win. Are we doing scores? Ryan didn't do a score.
Yeah, we might as well go around. Yeah, Ryan, what's your score prediction?
My fault. I thought we were just answering that question. That's on me.
No, it's on me. I should have prompted you for a score. That's on me. I'm hitting my chest here.
It's okay. It's okay. We can keep our chin up, John. We got this. I think Temple wins this one, and I don't think it's relatively close. I think it's going to be Temple winning 35-10.
I think my score is, I'm gonna go even higher score. I think Temple's gonna win 44-14.
People use the phrase "get right week." This might as well be a bye week. I think Charlotte's arguably the worst team in the nation. Whether that's a result of injuries or what, I do think they have a good coaching staff. Like Tim Altman was very successful at Ohio. In fairness, Ohio is one of like the good MAC programs. Like they actually do like fund their football program a bit, and like the MAC is a conference where there are teams in that conference that do not fund their football program whatsoever. I just think they're so bad. They're injured. We've already talked about the quarterback. Their starting center might be back this week. Their coach came out today and said like he's probably questionable while he was out last week. So like he's up in the air. If you listen to Tim Altman's press conference, he talks about them. He's like, we're just not equipped to throw the ball. And he's like, that's on the quarterbacks. The offensive line can't pass protect. The wide receivers can't get over. He's like, we're just not equipped to pass the ball, which is a bad thing when you're 127th in the nation in rush offense. They can't run the ball. They can't pass the ball. They give up sacks. They don't get their own sacks. They're 132nd in defensive sacks. They don't force turnovers. They're 128th in turnover margin. That Monmouth game, they needed a last minute touchdown to win that game. Otherwise, they'd be 0-6. I think this is a game that you're seeing Giovanni McCoy in the middle of the third quarter. I think Temple wins this game 42-7. Like, I really think this is an absolute blowout. If it's not, like, people have been talking, Casey Keeler said this week about how Evan Simon he speaks up when he has to, and even the defense listens to him. This is the ultimate test for like an Evan Simon, like leadership wise, because I'm sure the Temple players see the same thing on film that I'm seeing. We're a lot better than Charlotte, but Evan Simon's the guy as the leader of this team, whether it's him or Sekou Chroma, that needs to keep them right and focused on this. We're recording on a Tuesday. This will be like their first like real practice since that letdown game that's happened today. If they go out and they look sloppy in practice today and that carries into the game down in Charlotte, it is Charlotte's homecoming. So crazier things have happened, but like they need to just absolutely stomp this program.
Yeah, I think if you see any signs of malaise, if you're Temple, it better be maybe a couple sloppy series in the first quarter, and then you wake
Honestly,
up.
I think they could even overcome that. Like it might not be the best thing in the world, but if they start off sloppy, which might be a little justified. I think the difference in talent is enough that like Temple would still just eventually overcome Charlotte.
Yeah, I think this is like a 56-10 ball game. There's no reason why they can't really take their frustrations out here and just feel good about themselves again. So I think we're all on the same page. I think after last week, I think Colin and Ryan are still remain perfect on predictions, whereas Kyle and I took an L.
We did. We're down, but we're not out.
It's not a marathon. No, it's not a sprint.
No,
couldn't even get that right.
Yikes.
I won't be our spokesperson next time. As we talk briefly about Kyle's recruiting roundup coverage, Kyle, we have a second decommitment from this class, but from what you're hearing, this one was a bit of a mutual thing.
Took me a second to remember who you were talking about in the first one, but the tight end from Jersey.
Yes.
So Yalik Carter, who was projected to kind of play safety for Temple at the next level, decommitted. I'm not saying like I knew this was coming, but once it got out there, I kind of like snooped around into it a little bit, talked to some sources, and from my understanding, this we'll just respectfully say it was a mutual parting of ways. I do think another one's coming. I don't know how imminently, and I do also think that a couple of the silent commits are gonna pop soon. So if you're a Temple fan, well, decommitments always happen. It's an inevitability. I bet you there's not a single recruiting class in the nation that has all their kids committed in June and they all sign in December. Like there's always movement as they get closer to signing day. And even though signing day might not be as important as it used to be, it's still important now because that's the first day they can sign both their scholarship agreements and their rev share agreements. So there is something that can kind of like bind them in. So yeah, we still have another 2 months till that. And they will be counting the days with some guys and evaluating others.
Yeah, Andrew Gilman was the tight end from Mainland Regional High School in South Jersey.
But he was only committed for like couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks at most, and then
went to Penn.
flipped to Penn. So second decommit from this class, but otherwise, as Kyle said, they're counting the days until signing day. Again, if you are subscribed, you can check out Kyle's recruiting roundup.
Which, in all fairness, in all honesty, Yalik Carter was supposed to be the lead of this week's. He had made a good play in his game. They were about to lose the game. He comes from behind and peanut punches out this ball. I had the video. It was ready to go. Then Yalik Carter decommitted. So
Yeah,
here we are.
couldn't have waited another week.
That's what I'm saying.
He's got to.
I was like literally debating, like, can I use the phrase peanut punch in an article? Will people know what that is? Oh, it has its own Wikipedia page. I guess it's enough of a football colloquialism, and then gone.
I mean, you were prepared nonetheless. You know, you're like a coach who like scripts the first 15 plays, and maybe you don't run 5 of those plays because things go off kilter. And...
Colin, do you know peanut punch?
Yeah. I
From
know
Peanut Tillman?
punches.
Okay. Yeah. So if it's gotten to the youths, I'm allowed to use it. If it's in the youth vernacular, I, a fellow youth, am allowed to use it. You not so much.
No.
You, we had to see if it's questionable if you're allowed to use the phrase forward pass.
I'm expecting players to go out in leather helmets. I'm expecting Sonny Jurgensen to be taking the field at Franklin Field.
I haven't seen this. I don't know why I'm asking this. But did you ever see Leatherheads or whatever? It was like George
No.
Clooney and John Krasinski. I didn't see that.
No.
But I remember thinking, like, oh, old-timey football. That's neat. Did
Great
you
pod-
know that the person that directed ABBA's music videos later went on to direct Chocolat?
No.
The director of Chocolat is the one that directed all the ABBA music videos, like all the ones you're thinking of, like where it's like girl looking this way, guy looking this way, they're wearing huge headphones, or like Gimme, Gimme, Gimme a Man After Midnight. Same director. He got his start doing ABBA music videos.
Did not know that at all. I've never seen that movie, but I guess it makes a little bit of sense because they brought it up so many times in I Love You Man, right? It was like
Chocolate with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, it was like their punchline in that movie. Yeah.
Lasse Sven Hallstrom. He also did My Life as a Dog, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Cider House Rules. Like he had some like legitimate movies.
Some Johnny Depp history there.
And he got his start doing ABBA music videos. And they rule. They're very good music videos.
Colin was just talking to me the other day about how the song Knowing Me, Knowing You shaped his childhood.
I think you got the wrong guy over here, John.
I'm not going to hear any ABBA slander. Like legitimately, they were hell of a group.
Yep, love ABBA.
Colin, do you know who ABBA is?
Ryan, you just texted me that. I gave you the answer there. Why are you calling me out?
I just want
But was the answer yes or no?
No.
You don't know any, like, yes, you do.
You've
Mamma
heard
Mia?
If I were to hear a song, then yeah, I would probably know.
Dancing
But-
Queen.
What?
Dancing Queen?
Dancing Queen.
And yeah, I know Dancing Queen, but like,
Does
if
your
you-
mother
if you were
know?
just bring up Dancing Queen,
Which is a
asking me who
strange
made the song, I'd have no
Yeah.
idea.
Insane.
They missed that.
Colin, we're gonna watch Mamma Mia
I'm
tonight.
sorry, guys.
You can skip Mamma Mia too. The second one wasn't great. The first one's worthwhile.
The first one's fantastic. When I hear Pierce Bronson sing "I Do, I Do, I Do," it's great.
No,
One
no
minute
arguments on mine.
1 minute he's James Bond, the next minute he's in an ABBA musical. Straight to the silver screen.
Then
All right.
the next minute, like 15 years later, 15 years after his time as James Bond, he was in Mamma Mia.
Yeah. Another great scene from, not to get us more off track, another great scene from I Love You Man, where they're at the tuxedo shop. He's like, who's your preferred James Bond? He's like, no, give me T-Dalt. Timothy Dalton.
Who's your favorite James Bond?
I don't know. I kind of like, I mean, I'm not that old, so I don't know as much of like early Sean Connery. I think the very first James Bond movie I saw was A View to a Kill. That was Roger Moore. It was the 80s. I was a big Duran Duran fan. They had the title track for the soundtrack, but Pierce Brosnan was good. Timothy Dalton was
I used to have a soft spot for Pierce Brosnan just because, like, yeah, same thing. Like, GoldenEye was the first one I saw, right? And I wore the hell out of that VHS. But I think it's Daniel Craig. I think Daniel Craig's the
He's
best
good.
James Bond. Yeah.
He's good.
Ryan Mack will be the next James Bond.
Yes.
You're too nice to be the next James Bond.
This next James Bond kills him with kindness.
If it's okay with you, I'm gonna shoot you in the foot, but I'm not gonna kill you.
I know
It's
exactly where to shoot you. I'm
foot.
gonna miss there's no artery there. You're okay. It's all
Shoot
just both.
you
It's
in
gonna
the
sting.
foot.
It's gonna sting. It's gonna smart, but
And,
you'll be fine.
You're going to limp off, and then my British counterparts are going to come pick you up, and you're just going to be in a minimum security prison and listen to the Who for the rest of your life.
Have you signed up for short-term disability? You're gonna need that. There's gonna be a bit of a recovery time.
Let's talk some basketball here. As I promised at the outset of the show, both of these teams, every year I feel like these preseason polls, Diane's team, maybe they're closer, you could say, on paper to winning a conference championship. We'll see. But both these teams are kind of always undersold in the preseason polls. We'll get to Diane's team in a second. They came in at 4th in the American preseason poll behind USF, UTSA, and Rice. Adam Fisher's men's team, 9th in the American preseason poll behind Memphis, USF, Tulane, UAB, Wichita State, FAU, North Texas, and Tulsa. And then Temple checks in at 9th. I'm going to be a huge hypocrite here and say that, every year we say preseason polls don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, for whatever they're worth, which is not much, were you surprised at all to see them that low?
No, because the way that they go, I mean, other than I guess Gavin Griffiths and Spencer Mahoney, like the way that they've built this roster is like lower level guys that were more accomplished coming up. And I feel like if you're like the Tulsa beat reporter or the Wichita State beat reporter, that's not going to catch your eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's going to catch your eye is like the way Memphis constructs their roster and like these high major guys that were highly recruited coming down. So no, that doesn't surprise me necessarily. Honestly, then also like I think Diane Richardson's team, like that's not necessarily a slight. Like
No.
you're firmly in the conversation if you're that projected to finish that high.
Yeah, higher this year than years past.
Right.
I don't think it's a slight against Temple. I don't like majorly disagree with it. I just think it's so hard to rank every team in the conference because this is a conference with so much roster turnover year in and year out, and Temple's not an exception with like 11 new players. So it's just so hard to pinpoint how everyone's gonna mesh together, not only at Temple, but at like in FAU, at Wichita State, even at Memphis, who always brings in transfers year in and year out. Like it's just so hard to kind of pinpoint where, roster success from transfer portal is gonna hit and whatnot. So I don't think and you said like you should read into preseason polls. I think it's another example of like you really shouldn't read into it too much because there's 11 new players that Temple brought in. It's just hard to kind of pinpoint who's going to mesh well.
The two that are returning, Aiden Tobias and Babatunde Duradola, they went with Adam down to the...
Hey, do not disrespect Connor Gall.
I'm sorry. Connor Gall.
And Mohamed Keita. They have 4 players. Mo Keita.
The two...
Well, Mo Keita's not a key to this team. It's in his last name. Keita.
My God. Did you drink a Celsius before the pod?
No, this is all water. Also, have you ever picked up a water bottle from your desk and you start drinking it and you're like, really hope this is recent water.
Yeah. I did that the other
I hope
day.
this hasn't been sitting here for a while.
Did that the other day, and I was like, I don't think this is from today.
Oh, I don't think it's from this week. I think it might be from last week. Just water.
So yes, Connor Gall and Mohamed Keita are coming back. Aiden Tobias and Babatunde Duradola. How much of a jump are we expecting from them? I think that we always talk about the freshman to sophomore year leap. Adam Fisher and his staff are just like, any other staff in America. If you can retain promising freshmen and make them promising sophomores the following season, you're hoping for that freshman to sophomore year jump. Are they going to deliver on that front? Are Aiden Tobias and Babatunde Duradola going to deliver on that incremental or even more of an incremental leap? Are these going to be the guys that are going to be as good as advertised? And we're looking back in March, wherever that ends up, NIT, a shot at an NCAA tournament berth. Are we going to be looking back and dishing out the same platitudes and saying these were the guys that keyed the whole thing? Or do we have to pump the brakes on that a little bit?
I personally think that they are going to be as advertised. I know that, especially in the backcourt, they lost a bunch of people, but we've been able to see Aiden have to handle the ball and be like the main scorer when Mash didn't play against that Memphis game and a couple other times. I know it's a small sample size, but he looked really good when he has to take more charge and take the lead of it. I think he's going to be fine. My biggest one's going to be Baba, and I do think Now, a year under his belt, win a year that he should not have been playing college basketball anyway. Reclassifying, joining the team in August. He was really only there for a month and a half. Also, we know he wasn't supposed to be starting in the beginning of the year, but Elijah Gray had a concussion that kind of thrust him there, and was starting the entire game. So now he has an entire year under his belt playing ball. He has an entire off season under his belt with the program. He's able to get back and get in shape sometimes too. I think he's going to take a huge jump just being in this program for an entire year now. If he can work on his fouling issue, which hindered that team a lot of times. There was one game he had 2 fouls in the span of 90 seconds. Then I think their front court's going to be in tremendous shape. Yeah, they got Jeremiah Felt, but he's had injury issues in the past. So I really kind of want to see that. I do think he will be as advertised, though.
Yeah, Baba can't play 16 minutes a game this year. Like the main reason they had him last year is exactly what Ryan talked. Like he couldn't stay out of foul trouble. He averaged 3.1 fouls in 16 minutes a game. If you're gonna take the biggest thing from him from a sophomore jump, he can still get 3 fouls a game. It needs to be in 28 minutes. Like I think he needs to be on the court for them to see the potential of what he can be. And as far as Aiden, I think you saw it down the stretch. Once Jamal Mashburn went down, Aiden all of a sudden is shooting 46% from three and is actually looking to get his shot instead of there was that stretch where he was just not even attempting field goals during the game because like he was just taking a back seat as the fifth starter on some of those teams. And I think you saw what he could be down the stretch. And now, yeah, I think he's more poised to take like the more obvious sophomore jump where you're like, okay, now this guy's averaging 15 a game and they might have a potential pro here.
Let's talk about Diane's team. 4th in the preseason poll, as I mentioned earlier, behind USF, UTSA, and Rice. Colin, you saw a recent practice and were able to stop by. You've covered the team. Kayla Turner named to the preseason all-conference first team. She came in as a transfer from Alabama A&M last season, as we know. Averaged 9.9 points per game and hit the same amount of threes, which is 34 she did in her freshman season, but on fewer attempts. Tell people why they should be so high on Kayla Turner and just what you've seen just being around the team so far.
Yeah, I've gone to a couple practices the last couple weeks, and I mean, in terms of Kayla Turner, she has looked like far and away the best player on the team on the floor consistently with her speed. It looks like her jump shot's just continuing to get better. Her ball handling's getting better. She's shown the ability to kind of handle the offense when she's on the court. Even with her and Tristan Taylor on the court together, it wasn't a thing that happened a lot last year because she came off the bench, but they were playing together a little bit in practice, and Kayla did very well playing both off the ball and then even with the ball in her hands and forcing Tristan off the ball. And I mean, I think the first team preseason, American preseason is like warranted for her just based off a couple weeks of practice. She just got better throughout the year consistently. And I mean, just overall, like this team, what I've noticed from a couple practices is I think this team has a lot of depth that Diane Richardon's excited about. I haven't been able to talk to her too much at practices due to having to leave early with scheduling stuff, but I know like the depth was a big thing for her and the rebounding was a big thing for her. And both those aspects, the front court, I think they have 5 or 6 legitimate players in the front court. Jaleesa Molina keeps getting better. Felicia Jacobs looks really good. Chloe Miller looks strong. The freshman from Russia, Anastasia Bolanova, looks really good offensively, really good jump shot. And then Sanaya Craig, who's not as big as them, but she can rebound the heck out of the basketball. I mean, she led the Big South Conference, I think, was what she came from in rebounding. And she can really rebound the ball. That's kind of what I've
The
seen.
Atlantic Sun, the A Sun.
A Sun, not Big South. A Sun. That's where Jacksonville is. The only kind of concern I have is wing depth. Last year they had Tiara East and Tariana Gary, and on the wings is kind of like those bigger guards. This year, really the only player that played a lot last year in that role is Savannah Curry. And behind her, it's kind of players like Killian Sedano or like there's freshman Ariana Merity, who I don't know how much she'll play. So the wing depth is kind of the one area that is a little bit of a concern to me from the first couple practices, but the guards and the front court both look really deep and really strong.
Colin, one last question for you. And it's a hard question to answer right now on October 14th, but I think what's going to be on everybody's mind come March is, can they get over the hump of winning the games they're supposed to? I mean, it would have been very feasible for them to go to the NCAA tournament the last couple years, and they did not get it done in the conference tournament. Is there either going to be the development of a returning player or the addition of a new player where right now you're getting whatever it is, early season vibes? Again, probably an unfair question to ask, but it's going to be on people's minds. If they get to the tournament this year in March of 2026, are you going to be pointing to either the growth of a certain player or the addition of a player that, whether tangibly or intangibly, got them over the hump to say they were an NCAA tournament team this year because of this player, and that got them past their shortcomings from the past 2 seasons?
I think I'd point to Sanaya Craig, the transfer from Jacksonville.
Mhm.
I think rebounding's been an issue for the last couple of years, and you can point to maybe the development of Jaleesa Molina, who got tangibly better over the last season from this non-conference play into conference play. She developed so much, but I think Sanaya Craig just has a knack for the basketball down low and getting those rebounds. You can see it in practice, and I think she's going to win that team so many extra possessions. She has a solid touch around the rim, kind of on those offensive rebounds. She's a smart player. She can even step out and hit some jump shots. I think she adds another kind of layer in that front court with the ability to grab some rebounds, win extra possessions, get a couple of putback buckets. I think she's just going to add another level to that front court alongside Jaleesa Molina.
We'll be talking more Temple men's and women's basketball in the coming weeks as we get closer to the start of the season. As he does each week, our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers provides a weekly tip before we hop into the mailbag. He wants to be the best injury lawyer he can be for you, but he's also hoping that you don't need his services, so he tries to keep you safe in life and on the road. So here's Mike's weekly tip, then we'll hop into the mailbag.
Hey, Temple fans. For the second October in a row, we have been treated to a gut punch of a loss, the effects of which may still be lingering with you as you pull up to an intersection and you notice the light has turned green, but the car in front of you has not moved. Why? Because the person in front of you has decided to be looking at their cell phone instead of the vehicle ahead. Now, you may be entirely justified in taking out your frustrations from the Navy game and sounding that horn really loudly. However, I'm going to urge you not to do that. And why? Instead, take a moment and think, taking a deep breath, that you could be a Penn State fan, having your visions of going into the season, getting a national championship go swiftly down the drain. With the bliss of that schadenfreude, you could be able to move on, go forward, and enjoy your day. Go Owls.
First question here from the screen name Manicart from our OwlScoop message boards. At the start of the season, Casey Keeler talked about how important it was to rotate offensive linemen. We haven't seen it yet. Will we see it in the second half of the season? This is his first of 2 questions.
It's an interesting week to ask that question, considering I think the offensive line played their best game of the year, probably last week. Yeah, they gave up the 1 sack to Evan Simon, which I haven't watched the film. I'm assuming
Jacoby Hills got beat.
Assuming it was Jacoby Hills' guy. But other than that, I think they had plenty of time, good pass protecting. The obviously run game worked pretty well. I think you would expect to see it this week. I think this is a week you probably see Luke Watson and Kevin Terry probably get in there and shake off some rust. But I also think that what a good problem to have compared to previous years where everybody on the offensive line stayed healthy and you've been able to roll out the same starters for 6 straight games. But yeah, I would expect to see it this week.
Yeah, I think if they rotate, to your point, I think if they rotate anybody this week, it's because either they're blowing out Charlotte, which they should, or God forbid somebody gets hurt. They're by no means, Manicart, are we saying that they're a perfect offensive line. I think even just at an initial glance and without going back and rewatching the game or watching all 22, I think now Jacoby Hills got beat, and that was, that streak is no longer a thing of the past. Jacoby Hills gets beat. Evan Simon fumbles the ball. They turn it over. Now it cost Temple points. It cost them likely at least a field goal, if not a touchdown, because they were driving there.
Yeah.
So, but I would say to you that if back in August, Kevin Terry gets hurt and you're saying now Jacoby Hills, a redshirt freshman who's not played a snap of college ball, is his replacement. And one of the first glaring mistakes that we're going to be talking about where he gets beat and it's a turnover is in week 6, I think you'd probably take that, right? And it would also tell you, with all due respect to Kevin Terry, that tip of the cap to Jacoby Hills. If Kevin Terry was the better player right now, probably be in. But
Right.
Jacoby
Yeah.
Hills, for the most part, the tackles I think have been solid. Have they had their moments? Yes. Diego Barajas gotten beat. Every offensive lineman gets beat. I would say that there were times on Saturday where the interior of the offensive line looked like it got bullied. I mentioned that broken play earlier where Navy blew up that it was supposed to be a give to Jay Ducker. Evan keeps it, spins, and I think even Jay Ducker had his share of a couple of carries where he made people miss. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if they're up huge on Charlotte, then you're going to see a line change. You're going to see the second unit come in, but I don't think that they need to rotate offensive linemen for the sake of doing it. One of the worst things going for them over the last couple of years was they couldn't start the same five guys week in and week out. And I think we said this last week. Are we going to be talking 3 weeks from now and saying like, hey, that Eric King and Jackson Pruitt and Grayson Maines look better in week 10 than they did in week 4 because they just, it's like second nature playing next to each other. Again, I think that the interior could improve. They all could improve, but I don't think they're going to rotate them just for the sake of rotating them. I don't think it's in Tyler Walker's nature or Casey Keeler's nature to say, hey, it's the fourth series against Navy. Let's put in Kevin Terry. No, I think it's a horrible
Yeah.
decision.
I mean, in fairness to the question, like Casey Keeler has come out and said,
Yeah, he
like that
has.
was the point of the
Absolutely.
question, where he said, like, hey, I
Absolutely.
like to see the value in maybe them taking 10 plays off a game or whatever, but just for whatever reason, it hasn't like they haven't had you've had like they haven't had the opportunity the last couple weeks, I guess. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that like you can afford it if you were up 20 at half, then maybe you could take the series in the third quarter or whatever, and like okay, get Luke Watson in there, get Kevin Terry in there, but they weren't. They were only up 10, and I think that at this point they're like there's enough of a drop off to that second unit that it's just weren't too close of a game to give really any opportunity.
He also said that Tyrese Whitaker was going to be a double-digit sack guy, and
Yeah,
I parroted that talking point, and he doesn't have any sacks. It's not to say that he hasn't had his role in this defensive line, but yeah, I think if you see any rotation, it's going to be in a game like this. But I don't know that you're going to see it in tightly contested games. So somewhere in the middle there, we are not saying that this line has been perfect by any means, but if Al Johnson and Tyler Walker and Casey Keeler see enough, we're saying if we need to keep trotting the same five guys out there where we build chemistry, build it and build it, that's probably their best play. Question number 2 here. Temple has been the victim of several game-changing missed/bad calls. Do you think Temple's last 4 years are subconsciously influencing the officials? Is it time for Keeler to start working on the refs? I think someone on our Scoop message board responded to your post and said he works on the refs. I don't think he.
I see Keeler talking to the refs all the time,
Yeah,
like all the time. I see him fighting, like yelling at them or something like that. So, yeah, I don't think he saw. I think upon film review, he saw the false start on the 2-point conversion, but I don't think he saw it in real time. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have been irate.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure they're pretty irate about that call. And again, he's a pro. He's done this for a long time. I asked him yesterday, did they miss that call? Was it a false? Yeah, absolutely a false start. But then he covered his tracks and said, we lost the game, wasn't on us, but I'm sure they're aware of it. But this is a guy who's been coaching. He's 65 years old. He's not opposed to getting on refs. I saw him do it Saturday. I've seen him do it in every single game this year.
And he hasn't talked about this, but Stan Drake used to talk about this. There is like the venue of like they can submit like plays to the league and be like, what the hell happened here?
Oh, I'd be shocked if they didn't send that play.
I'm positive they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple more questions to close us out here. The second one is from the screen name Lone Star 2000. We are at the halfway point in the regular season. I like this question. It's a good one. We're at the halfway point in the regular season, and you've just been handed the single-digit reset button based solely on the on-field performance and disregarding the other factors that go into the single-digit process. Which single digits are you retaining? Which are you rescinding? And which additional are you rewarding?
I don't think I'm rescinding any.
Yeah,
Because
I'm not going to rescind any either.
even like we talked about this earlier, like Colin Chase isn't going to have the 70 catches wherever that you predicted, but like
I predicted 120.
they find a way to get him the ball. Like he had the 21-yard rush against Navy. Like I think he's been
still a good player.
He's still a good player that like they're carving out a role. I think the obvious ones to me are like Peter Clark and JoJo Bermudez.
Yep.
Of like I tweeted this and it might be a little hyperbolic, but I mostly believe it. That I'm like I think JoJo Bermudez is already on like my Mount Rushmore of Temple returners. Like every time somebody kicks the ball to him, it seems like he makes at least one person miss every single time it has a chance for a big thing. And then on offense, he's been good as well. And then Peter Clark's been a revelation at times.
It's easy to say. I think it's only a matter of time before he breaks one. He is really, really fast. You can see, and maybe we've talked about it. Have we talked about it enough? I mean, the guy's dealt with an injury at Delaware, dealt with an injury at Cincinnati. This might be a kid who is as healthy as he was back when he was at Cedar Creek, right? Not Timber Creek. He was at Cedar Creek. And this was a kid. This is a kid who had big offers out of South Jersey, and he looks about as healthy as he's ever been, and is a really dynamic. He's fast, change of direction. I think he and Peter would be, as you said, like the two obvious ones.
Jay Ducker.
Jay Ducker. I was
been,
gonna say Jay Ducker and Kajaya Holloway, maybe.
Yeah, Jay Ducker is has a sneaky, especially if they go to a bowl, has like a sneaky chance at 1,000-yard season, which they haven't had since Reichwell Armstead. So he's been everything they need him to be. He's been that bell cow back. I would include him in that conversation as well.
So none that you're rescinding, right? I think we're in agreement on that.
No,
I can't think of any.
I think they got it right. No, I'm taking away Evan Simon's single digit. You can't fumble the ball. You can't have one turnover in 6 games. Not acceptable.
You know what? As I'm just looking through the roster here again, you and I have talked about him, but not on the pod. It's not a mailbag question here. Kevion Mason, getting into the game a couple of times, 2 carries, but 2. Tyler Walker puts him in on the first series of the game as a change of pace, and it's one of those things where it's like the guy looks a tad different. Like, that's not Jay, that's not Hunter. Wow, they threw Mason in there, and then he was on the last drive leading up to the Jay Ducker touchdown, right?
Yeah, I mean, those were his only snaps, but we've talked about this. He's at the position where you can't play him 40 snaps a game because I don't think he's there to pass block yet. So when he's in the game, he's usually getting the ball in that small sample size. But yeah, I think that's a situation where I think they're banking on the fact that it looks like the tea leaves are reading that NCAA is probably gonna change it so it's 5 years to play 5 seasons regardless. Just get rid of red shirts basically, and it's 5 years. And if that's the case, then it doesn't matter if you burn his red shirt because this year would count against them regardless. So you might as well just play the best players at this point. If it was Steve Adazio, he would have still just played him 5 games and cost them a year of eligibility.
Yeah.
With a future NFL defensive tackle like Matt Ioannidis.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah. Mason's a guy who you might want to watch if he gets into the game on Saturday, which
he had some bursts there. He had some legitimate pop that you're okay. Next year, Jay Ducker is out of eligibility. Hunter Smith, I think, is still up in the air about whether or not he's going to get that extra year. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe guys like Mason, and I honestly think RJ Blunt's going to be a good running back at Temple. Maybe guys like Mason and Blunt they feel confident enough with them. But we'll see.
Last question here. John Cole, a friend of mine, 2017 Temple grad, covers PA politics for Pennsylvania Capital Star, listens to our podcast. Good to hear from you, buddy. His question: after Saturday's loss, how confident are you that Temple can still win enough games to be bowl eligible this season? I think we're pretty much on the same page with this, right?
Well, you tell me. What do you think?
Barring anything crazy, they should be 4-3. It's not, I realize it's not a slam dunk,
right?
But win number 4 should come on Saturday. Is it a road game? Yes, but I think that would it surprise you if they won 3 in a row? If they beat Charlotte, Tulsa, East Carolina? To answer John's question, yes, I think they can absolutely still be bowl eligible. I think if we want to keep sticking to North Texas on the road day after Thanksgiving is going to be tough. Tulane on November 22nd is going to be tough. I think that Army's beatable. I think that East Carolina is beatable. I think that Tulsa's beatable. I think that Charlotte is beatable. So if you win 3 of those 4 games, again, I'm not saying that it's easy, but I think they absolutely can still be bowl eligible.
I would agree with that. I think East Carolina is kind of like Temple up until last week, where they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They've lost the teams they're supposed to lose to. I think Temple will be their first game where it's okay, let's see what happens when they're I think they're probably a better team than Temple, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that like East Carolina at Philadelphia is like a potential for a Temple win. I think you'll know going into like that second bye week after Army of like if they're still if they're sitting at like 5-5 at that point and you still have Tulane at home, which Tulane's not as good as they have been. Like offensively, like they're still just
Yeah.
figuring it out. But like that would be kind of like rough. That so like like things would really like to break their way. But like I think they can beat East Carolina. I think they can beat Army. And if you take one of those, I think they're gonna. We've talked about this. I think they're gonna smack Charlotte. Spoiler alert for next week. I think they're gonna beat Tulsa. So then that gets you to 6 wins. So, but if it doesn't, like if they go 5-7, it's still they just look like so much more like a competent program than they have in the last like 4 years. I was talking to my wife at halftime, and I'm like, yeah, they're only up 10, but like they just look and like they just look so much like better as just like an actual like football program. There were times in the last couple of years where you're like, they're just outclassed in every aspect here. And yeah, it's still football. You're still going to lose some games that you should have won. You're going to win some games you should have lost, but like, they just look the part more.
Yeah, they do. I think you would be more inclined to believe. Well, I'll say this to back up for a second. I think Saturday was the first moment where you say a veteran coach whiffed on something and made a decision that he shouldn't have made, and yet they still almost won the game. 9 times out of 10, I think you trust the staff to do the right thing, and if they like in that scenario where they're 5-5 heading into Tulane in North Texas, would it shock me if they beat Tulane? No. They're going to be the underdog in that game, but they should respond with a rout over Charlotte. The interesting weeks will be the ones that follow. Like, how much do they let this fuel them? Because there were so many moments in that game where that's why it's a tough one to swallow for them. They played a competent first half. They played a more than competent first half. And as you said, they left points on the board, but they were making Navy, whether it was coaching calls, whether they're like, hey, whether they're like, hey, we can throw the ball a little bit more. It's a game where they'd say, hey, we were the better team. The scoreboard says what it says, but it wouldn't shock me if they were in a position to beat Tulane.
Right. Like, I know it sounds like sour grapes. They were so much better than Navy.
Mhm.
Like like kudos to Navy for fighting back in the second half, and Blake Horvath is awesome. But like Temple's offense was able to do pretty much whatever it wanted at times in that game.
Yep. And Heidenreich's good, and Texas. I mean, like they do what they do, and they do it really, really well.
They're 6-0, so like all the credit to them. Like they're probably on a path that like they have a very rough stretch coming up, but if they can somehow weather through that and go 2-2 in that 4-game stretch we were talking about, then like you're gonna go 6-2 in conference and would probably go to the Military Bowl again. Like they're a very good program, but like Temple was a better team on Saturday than Navy was.
That'll do it for this week. Appreciate you guys all listening to The Scoop and the continued support of the podcast. Coming up next week, we'll have more football talk, more basketball talk. You're going to hear my interview with former Miami coach and former George Mason coach Jim Larinaga. I had a chance to catch up with him recently. As you know, I mean, this is this staff for the most part is the Jim Larinaga coaching tree. Adam Fisher worked for him. Michael Huger worked for him. Bill Courtney worked for him. Really enjoyed our conversation, and we'll be passing that, or at least part of it, along to all of you guys in the podcast. Appreciate the mailbag questions. Keep them coming. We'll talk to you soon. And Kyle, who's on the schedule this week for Team Haiti for soccer?
I'm blanking on the team name, but they beat us 13-5 in week 1. So we gotta get our lick back. The team we beat this weekend beat us in week 2. So we already have I exercised some demons. Coming back, trying to get a win on a above 500 record.
I like it. We're
not supposed to keep score. Technically, we're all 0-0. I keep scoring.
Yeah, we're keeping score here on The Scoop. So thanks everybody. We will talk to you next week.